Hi guys, my name is Yi Chow. I'm the Wizards Play Network Community Manager, and I'm here with Shawn Main, who is the head designer for Conspiracy Take the Crown. He also is a member of R&D, working on all kinds of things. And today we're here to talk to you guys a little bit about Conspiracy Take the Crown, answer your questions, and also talk with Shawn a little bit about the design process behind the set and kind of some good information for you guys to have as you guys get ready for your launch events this weekend. Thanks so much for joining us, Shawn.
Absolutely, pleasure.
So you designed the original Conspiracy set as well, right?
Yeah, so original Conspiracy was kind of built very casually way back just on the idea that multiplayer drafting was this really fun thing. It's before I came to Wizards, it was how a lot of my friends back home, we would play these big multiplayer games, and eventually we started finding that we really liked drafting too. And I brought that to Wizards, and enough people got excited by the idea that we did it. We created the original Conspiracy set a few years back, and it was strong enough that we felt like we wanted to do a sequel, and yeah, it's really exciting right now.
Yeah. I personally have really enjoyed the previous Conspiracy and this set as well. What do you envision as kind of our audience for this set?
So I think there's kind of two audiences. The first one, I guess I should say there are three audiences now that there was the original Conspiracy. Fans of the original Conspiracy have tons of stuff here to get excited about again. But there's also just people who enjoy multiplayer. If you like Commander, say, it is a lot of that kind of dynamic where you've got a bunch of people in the game and you've got a little bit more of a social game going on, I think. But it is a less powerful environment overall, and it's got the draft component of you don't build your deck beforehand. And I do think there is some appeal here to players who enjoy drafting but want a different experience, that maybe haven't tried playing multiplayer ever, but want that as a unique thing to jump into.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think we were curious too, in terms of, for those of you guys who had the opportunity to run Conspiracy in the past, what kind of players you guys saw playing that set, and who do you expect to be most excited by this set coming up here? And also, Shawn, you had a more specific question too about if we're drawing in new groups? Or?
Yeah, I'm really curious to hear kind of from a store perspective, are you seeing what kinds of players are you really seeing who are interested in Conspiracy and trying it? Is it more the Commander group that's kind of coming in and trying it? Is it more, or is there a wider appeal? Are there more people who are trying multiplayer for the first time? I'm really curious to hear that reaction from stores and find out.
Yeah, so if you guys have any comments about who you're seeing getting excited about the set, go ahead and leave that in the comments. And Jordan, who's helping us out, will share that with us so we can share with the viewers as well. What I wanted to ask next is, tell us a little bit about some of the mechanics behind Conspiracy. What makes this set different from something else, other than the multiplayer aspect of it?
Sure. So the biggest mechanical difference here, besides the multiplayer itself, is every single booster of Conspiracy Take the Crown has one card that is specific to the fact that you're drafting. Mm-hmm. It's watermarked with sort of a crown symbol on it, and it has a rarity just sort of its own that doesn't match the rarity of other things necessarily. And those cards come in two varieties. Either they are something that will affect the draft, be affected by the draft, and those will be all kinds of fun things that turn it into a mini game itself. Things like, hey, you can later take an extra pick from a booster, or you can play a guessing game with what your opponent, one of the other players took from the pack you just took from to get a bonus. And they are either that category, the like drafting matters, or they have the card type Conspiracy, which Conspiracy cards with the type line Conspiracy, they don't go in your deck, they live outside the deck, and in some way will affect the game that you're playing. Often they'll be like, here's a different setup to the beginning of the game, everyone starts with something, or I have some special ability for the whole game.
Cool, awesome. So, outside of these draft mechanics and conspiracies, with the conspiracies themselves, we have hidden agendas and double agendas. It's the new thing, right?
There's one double agenda.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so can you tell me a little bit about both of those?
Sure. So hidden agendas are really cool. They were in the original conspiracy, and they're a subtype of conspiracy that starts the game face down, and you secretly name something that it is going to affect. Often it will grant a special power to a creature you have, and usually I've found it really effective. Like, you want players writing down somewhere kind of what those secret choices are beforehand. Post-it notes are super awesome, and I guess if we're talking to stores, it is cool to have scraps of paper and pens or even Post-it notes on hand to kind of let players mark down those kind of things. And the twist from the original conspiracy is, in original conspiracy, they were all colorless. But now there is a component of color where some of them will ask you to pay green mana or blue mana, and you get more powerful effects. But now, if Ichao is drafting blue, or not, if he's not drafting blue, maybe he'll pass the blue one on to me, and so they'll kind of float to different players in the draft, and they are more powerful but less ubiquitous in terms of who can use them.
Gotcha. That's really cool. So kind of evolving on that idea of what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, color is so fundamental to Magic that it, in retrospect, seems like a very obvious choice, but was actually a big evolution from the original conspiracy.
Neat. Real quick, jumping to some comments from folks. Alejandro says, conspiracy is more expected to players who play Commander, casual, and are not too deep into the competitive scene.
Okay, that's really cool to hear.
Yeah, and Alex kind of echoed that sentiment as well. My Commander players are excited to play conspiracy mostly. So great, thank you guys for sharing that with us. And if you have any questions about conspiracy for Shawn or I, you can feel free to ask it in the comments as well, and we'll address those as they come up. And so this set is called Conspiracy Take the Crown, which, of course, we can't talk about Take the Crown without talking about the new Monarch mechanic, where you're literally taking the crown from each other, right?
Yes. So the real centerpiece mechanic of this set is this Become the Monarch mechanic. And I could tell all kinds of design stories about this, but the basic way it functions is you'll have some cards that say, when this enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch, or there's one or two other conditions. And if no one is the Monarch yet, it introduces it to the game. Okay. That person now has this special designation, and I believe in the kits there's some physical crowns, maybe. Yep. So they also gain the ability that at the end of their turn, they draw a card, so it's upside, but if someone else deals combat damage to them, that person takes the monarchy away from them, and now they are the monarch. So it's this kind of, it's really fun for multiplayer because it's really powerful, but it's painting a target on your forehead, so now you need to defend against all these different people who might be coming at you.
Yeah, and what I really love about the mechanic is it ties into the story side pretty well, right? In the story, we have the Ghost King who is assassinated at the start of the plot, and then Marchesa takes over, but her reign is not for sure. There's a lot of people working against her to try to, take that crown. And so we see this in the gameplay in a really active kind of way. Yeah.
I mean, there's this beautiful story going on in the background of the cards that are these different sort of political players vying for power in this very, cutthroat setting. And yes, it is trying to be a reflection of that sort of the politics and the intrigue of Paliano.
Speaking of politics and intrigue, was this set designed with the idea of it falling into American political election season? There's this kind of hilarious echo and timing of it all, right? If for those of us in the U.S. here, at least.
That was not intentional. There is also, I think, what you're referring to, the voting mechanic. Yeah. Voting was an element of the original conspiracy, which was very popular, and which is actually the biggest reason why we returned to it. We twisted it a little bit. So in the original conspiracy, all these cards would have two choices, and you would everyone as a group would be choosing kind of A or B. death or torture. This time, however, when you play one of these voting cards, each person makes the choice, and it will whatever effect will happen for each person who chooses one way or the other. So we sometimes jokingly call it every vote counts, because there'll be things like death or taxes, and I'll choose death, and that means something, and then Ichao will choose taxes, and that effect will happen once.
Cool. So kind of again, a lot of these mechanics we saw in the original set have kind of evolved.
Yeah. I mean, we tried to really take what was the essence of Conspiracy the first time around and what was really fun and refine that a little bit, and hopefully it is a mashup of all the best elements and some new ones thrown in there too.
For sure. I want to jump real quick back to Monarch real fast. First off, I wanted to say, for those of you who've gotten your kits with the crowns are meant as markers of who's Monarch. They're very small, so they're meant more to be placed in front of the player to kind of denote who is the Monarch at the time. A lot of people ask why aren't the crowns wearable. You can wear the tiny crowns. I've seen a lot of people doing that, in fact, to great effect, and it was a lot of fun and pretty funny. But also, someone on my team did a little modification to her crown to build it out into a wearable size. So I'll be sharing pictures of that in a post after this live stream. So it's pretty cool. Talia's on our team is really great with papercraft, and she did a real simple modification. So if you wanted to take your existing crown and make it wearable, you can take a look at what she did, and I'll share that after the thing.
I've been tracking down cheap tiaras on Amazon for my game this weekend.
Yeah. I believe we had a retailer, Rhonda, share that she purchased tiaras from Target that are from Frozen, and she also said she's not telling her players until after the game where those tiaras are from, which I'm pretty excited about. I also wanted to ask, how did the Monarch mechanic kind of come about? Because it feels so central to the whole story, like, thrust of the set.
Yeah, it's really kind of interesting that we came to it very, very late in the design of the set. That for a long time we knew we wanted something that was in this space, that multiplayer compared to 1v1 Magic, often it becomes strategically a lot more powerful to kind of turtle up and protect yourself and let everyone else do the fighting. But that's not as much fun. Right. It's a lot more fun to have reasons that, like, you want to be pushing the game forward, you want to be active, you want to be kind of mixing things up with other players. And so it's really valuable for multiplayer sets to have something that's explicitly calling on players or encouraging them to get out there and start interacting with each other. And it also, for someone who might be a little bit less either I don't want to say newer to the game, but just like less sure of the kind of those big multiplayer dynamics.
Sure.
It's really nice to have the game kind of point at one person and say, hey, there's a lot going on this table. I mean, you see this a lot with Commander and things,
right.
Like such complicated boards. It's really nice to say, like, hey, look at this person, pay a little bit more attention here. So we knew we wanted something that kind of had the shape of the Monarch mechanic. But it was really very late that James Hada, who's a designer over on the Duel Masters game that we also make, he suggested something that led us down the path towards the Monarch mechanic.
Neat. Awesome. Yeah. We have a question from Marito that I wanted to address real quick. Day asks, have you guys tried drafting Take the Crown combined with Conspiracy 1?
There are a lot of people who really want to be doing this, which is really, really cool. It was not designed with that as a central focus. So people absolutely can, but you were mentioning the hidden agendas. They are not optimized because those are especially fun to collect a whole bunch of copies of a card, and you won't get as many copies when you are combining original Conspiracy with Conspiracy 2. This is another thing I've actually been asking a lot of people who are excited about Conspiracy, because a lot of people want to try this. I don't know what the optimal way to do that is. My suspicion, if you wanted to, is 2 packs of Conspiracy 2, 1 pack of Conspiracy 1. I would love to hear what the best way to do that is.
Could it even be like 2 and 2 or something crazy?
Sure.
Right? Get a lot of cards in that pool.
I mean, you'll have big beefy decks in that case. But yeah, that sounds fun.
Neat. So yeah, And you were talking about how in multiplayer we really want to encourage people to look into being more interactive and attacking. Tell us a little bit about the mechanics of goad and melee and how that factors into that.
So those are both actually all kind of in the vein of what the Monarch mechanic was trying to do. Goad is this mechanic. It especially appears in red and blue, and it says that you'll goad an opponent's creature, and it has to attack on its controller's next turn, and if possible, it has to attack a player other than you. So it is red in multiplayer, since we build our game usually first and foremost for 1v1. Has a little bit of a problem with sort of these multiplayer dynamics, because it wants to be aggressive, and so how can you be aggressive without also opening up all your defenses and letting everyone in? And goad is this really fun way that you're kind of forcing your opponents to interact with each other. They can't hide behind walls, you're creating openings, but also it's a way of kind of diverting attention that I want to attack someone, and oh, you've got a really scary creature. Well, why don't you attack this person over there? I love goad. Goad is really fun because it's just like forcing everyone to interact with each other. Cool. And then the other mechanic you mentioned, which is the one other new mechanic in the set, is called melee, and it is encouraging you to attack everyone. It gives, when a creature with melee attacks, it gets a bonus for each other player that you are also attacking, or each total player that you are attacking. And that's kind of for the super spiky, competitive person who really enjoys that big, complicated game state of, hey, there's a ton of stuff going on here. Try to figure out everything that's going on, and can I put an attack against you, and one over here, and one over here, to get this real optimal thing. It is also pushing the game forward, and also kind of has that dynamic of spreading out damage, so ideally, it's not like one person is getting picked on at any one moment. But I think, like I was saying, that it's really for the very competitive person who can take in a lot of information.
Cool. Yeah, it's really exciting how these mechanics both function for kind of the more social gamer who that these mechanics just work, and they'll discover that in play. And there's also a lot of depth to reward the more experienced player to kind of really understand the combat math and the strategy that allows them to optimize that game as well.
Well, thank you. I am excited about them.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I know that obviously with any kind of draft format that kind of affects the draft itself, I imagine drafts sometimes can run a little longer than maybe a normal draft. Did you guys have a target, or was that part of your guys' design process? And in terms of how long games run, did you guys have any thoughts about that as well?
That is a great question, and I wish I had numbers for you right off the top of my head. Definitely both those things run a little bit longer than typical. I don't have numbers.
Sure,
off the
no
top of my
worries.
head, sorry.
Yeah. So just something for you guys to keep in mind too is that because this draft format is a little different, it might tend to run a little longer, especially as your players are getting used to some of the dynamics and some of the different things that are happening. If we didn't have any additional questions for Shawn about the design of the set or anything happening there, Shawn, did you have anything you wanted to share with the retailers before you depart and run away?
I don't know. I'm real excited. I'm real excited to see reactions. They've been great so far, so I'm really hopeful that people are going to have fun when they actually start playing with the set. There are a ton of exciting new cards, and a ton of exciting reprints are a big part of the set as well. They're Paliano, the setting is represented on all of the new cards, but we get all of these like blasts from the past that are real exciting cards too.
Yeah, there's a lot of pretty cool stuff for all kinds of players here.
Yep.
So. Awesome. Thanks so much, Shawn. And if you guys have any questions or thoughts, and we'd love to hear how Conspiracy is doing in your store, you can always share it here in the Facebook group, whether it's a comment on this video or as a post to start a conversation. Thanks so much for joining us, Shawn.
Great. Thank you so much.
We'll catch you later. And real quick, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit more about some of the details with Conspiracy and running the event. specifically, if you're running the event in WER, you want to make sure that you select player list only. So this is a casual draft event. It's not the WER isn't going to be able to do the pairings for you. So you want to make sure to select player list only, so that way there's no rounds that are generated. You guys can run the event correctly there. Other than that, in your kits, you guys should have received the lineage sheets and the crowns. Again, I'll post the pictures of how my teammate Talia modified her crown to be wearable, which I thought was pretty neat. Took a little staples and tape, which is not quite the perfect engineered paper crafts crown design, but I think that her result looks really great. And again, if you're really looking to have something official that you can also wear easily, you can check out what she did as inspiration for some creative applications. I'll post that in just a little bit here. Additionally, if you guys had any questions for your conspiracy event coming up, you can leave them here as well. I will be going through the comments to make sure I pick up any questions from people who weren't able to watch this video live and had thoughts after the fact. Beyond that, I wanted to also answer some questions we've gotten from retail support about conspiracy. Just some of our most commonly asked questions that we got. I talked to our retail support guys, so I wanted to answer these for you guys in case you had the same question. So the first question that we receive most often about conspiracy is, can I run more than one conspiracy event? And the answer, of course, is yes. Although you can only schedule one conspiracy launch event in the WER. That's for your one kit for the launch event with the cards, the lineage sheets, and the crowns. You can run as many conspiracy drafts as your players want. So that is definitely a yes. There's also a question of, can conspiracy events be run as F&M events? The answer to that is also yes. They do need to be scheduled as casual F&M events, since they're not since conspiracy isn't a valid ranked format. But you can definitely run conspiracy for F&M if that's what your players want. And the last one is, can I use a mix of conspiracy boosters from 2014 and 2016 in my events, which is the question that they had. So the official answer is, we encourage all TOs to run events with Conspiracy 2016 boosters only in order to provide the intended play experience for the new Conspiracy set. That said, since both releases are a special set outside of standard rotation and casual formats, you guys are totally free to run casual multiplayer events using both original and latest conspiracy boosters. I personally think that's an awesome idea to kind of spice up the format, especially after you've run Conspiracy Take the Crown standalone for a couple events as we head into release and for the week or two after. But later on in this life cycle of this product, it might be really fun to be like, hey, as we're about to say goodbye to Conspiracy and move to Kaladesh, we're going to have one final big event of the super conspiracy drafts. You know, we're going to do it with the old conspiracy and the new conspiracy, get a chance to open up some of the cool cards from both sets. I think that could be a really cool and fun event if you had the product and the time for that. So if there aren't any additional questions, which it looks like there currently are not, thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to answering your questions and talking to you guys more in the WPN Facebook group coming up in the next week. And our next live stream will be 2 weeks from now, still on Wednesday at noon, and we'll check in with you guys then. Until then, we will see you later.